Hello, my name is Stacy. Welcome to the Wild Yarrow Apothecaries podcast, where we focus mainly on herbalism, but we also talk about all things holistic health. So grab a cup of herbal tea and enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to this podcast episode where we're going to be doing something a little bit different today. So, I'm going to be posting an older episode, but I think it's a fantastic episode. And I don't plan on doing this very much in the future. This is the very first time that I am doing this. But I like to practice what I preach. And that is, that we shouldn't put too much on our plate. And right now I have a lot on my plate. And so this is kind of my compromise to kind of, help with my mental health. So first, the last week of the month is always a little chaotic for me. And it's the last week of the month. But not only that, but my son is getting married on Saturday. And so there is a lot going on right now. So like I said, I like to practice what I preach. I think that it's really important that we don't put too much on our plates. And I am really big on mental health. And for my mental health, I think it's important to not do a full episode this week. So I'm going to give you a really good episode where I'm going to be talking about how to become an herbalist. This is one of my more popular episodes that I have done. And so I thought for anybody new that this would be really good. For anybody that's been with me for a while, this is a good refresher. And so we talk a lot about, or I share a lot of goodies on this episode. So I hope you love it. And next week, I will be back to sharing my regular content. So, thank you for your understanding, and I can't wait to put out a new episode next week. All right, guys, enjoy the episode. Hello, and welcome to this episode where we're going to be talking all about how do you become an herbalist. I know from experience how overwhelming becoming an herbalist can be, and this is a question that I get asked often. A lot of people will come to me and ask me how in the world do I even begin to learn about herbalism? How do I become an herbalist? And I know from experience, like I said, how overwhelming this could be. I actually wanted to learn about herbalism years before I did. And I think it's just because it's like, where do I even begin? And in my opinion, herbalism is super easy. There's just so much to it. It's an open-ended topic that I believe no matter how many years you research and study herbalism, you're never going to know everything about herbalism. My number one tip that I can give you when you want to learn herbalism and try to become an herbalist is allow yourself to be a beginner. I think a lot of people try to learn everything overnight, and herbalism is not one of those things. It's something that that it's important to learn a little bit here, a little bit there. And it's interesting because after a while, you'll realize, wow, I know a lot about herbalism. So all right, so the first thing that I would really recommend is what type of herbalist do you want to be? Do you want to learn about herbalism to maybe help your own health, your friends, your neighbors, and maybe stop right there? You're like, I just want to be able to help my loved ones to heal naturally, and that's perfectly amazing. Um, Maybe you want to create skincare products and, sell it or maybe share it with your friends and family or other. Maybe you want to uh, sell tea blends or tinctures, which that's kind of tricky. We'll put that in a whole other episode. But do you want to sell products? Do you want to consult? Now, if you do want to consult, I do recommend that you do go to school. But do you want to consult with people? Do you want to be a clinical herbalist? Um, do you want to teach? What type of herbalist do you want to be? So that's something. And the really cool thing is maybe you're gonna start off being like, you know what, I just want it for myself and my family. And then maybe once you really get into it, you're like, no, I want to consult. And you can change your mind. You can totally change your mind, but maybe at this particular point, what type of herbalist do you want to be? Um, and I want to do a whole other episode someday on really going into details about different types of herbalists. So I do want to tell you though, in the United States, there is no such thing as a certified herbalist. Oh, I do believe, like in England, there is. So if you ever come across a herbalist that lives in the UK and they call themselves a certified herbalist, that is perfectly normal. And there's other countries where they can call themselves certified herbalists, but that is not something that we do here in the United States. The FDA does not recognize herbalism as a valid practice. So that being said, you can totally be a self-taught herbalist. I know some amazing herbalists that are self-taught and they like I said, are just amazing. So, do you want to be self-taught or do you want to go to school? I just happened to go to school. Um, it was just kind of how my journey kind of went, and it was amazing. And I loved going to school. But like I said, when it comes to herbalism, you don't need to go to school. But I do recommend that if you do want to consult with um, people that you should go to school. So if you want to be like a clinical herbalist, definitely. Now, I'm not a clinical herbalist, but I am what you call a holistic health practitioner. So I like to cover like nutrition, mindset, and herbs. And so I can do that since I'm a holistic health practitioner. But yeah. Now, let's say you want to go to school. What school should you go to? So I went to American College of Healthcare Sciences, which is also abbreviated to ACHS, and I loved it. Now, it is one of the most pricey schools, but it is accredited. So I wanted to go to a school that was accredited, and it was. And so that's why I picked the school that I went to. I have known so many people that have gone to Herbal Academy and they absolutely loved it. So if you want something that's more affordable, Herbal Academy is amazing. Chestnut School of Herbal Medicine is amazing as well. There's a school out there called INN. I don't know if INN actually does herbalism, but they do a lot of like nutrition. You might have to look into that. Now, these aren't really where you can get a certificate for clinical um, herbalist. Yeah, you can't be a clinical herbalist, but there is courses of two schools here. One is by Saja Popham, the School of Evolutionary Herbalism. Saja Popham does a lot of courses, and so you can check that out. I've done a few of them and they are amazing. Matthew Wood has a school called Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism. I haven't done any of his courses, but I've read a few of his books and he is amazing. If you are self-taught, or if you want to be self-taught, I recommend getting your hands on as many books as you can. Even though I went to school, I love herbal books, and herbal books is where I get most of my information. I just absolutely love them. And I don't trust just one source. So I like to have a few books so I can kind of compare them together and see what the overall information is, because even though it's a book, sometimes they can be wrong. And so it's like, okay, let's see what each book is saying. Now, if you're tight on money, and you're like, I would love to get books, but I'm really tight on money, I have found some of the most amazing books at thrift stores, especially Goodwill. So maybe go look at your thrift store, and I've gotten them from like $2 to $3 each. So maybe look at your local thrift store. Your library probably has some books, so you can check out some library books. Um, you could also look at YouTube videos. I have gotten a lot of my information from YouTube videos as well. Just be really careful because there could be some information on YouTube that is not correct. Again, this is why I like to compare notes and, kind of be like, okay, this is this what the overall um like several herbalists are saying. Same thing with TikTok. I've learned a lot from TikTok. Hopefully they'll stick around at this moment. They're talking about possibly another ban, which is weird, but um TikTok has been really beneficial. Again, they'll be very, very careful. There are some false information. This is where, sometimes I'll be like, I'll find something that sounds interesting on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and I'm like, huh, that sounds interesting. So I'll try to do further research to see if I can find any information um, to say yes or no. But I found for the most part, like most of the books, I have found correct information from books. So that's why I love books so much. Also, podcasts like what you're listening to right now. Try to listen to as many herbalists on these podcasts as you can. I believe that we all have our own way of doing things, and I just love that. All right. Please, though, one place I will tell you, please, please don't do your research when it comes to herbalism is Google. Please don't Google herbalism or herbs. Um, my little conspiracy here, conspiracy theory is I believe that Google is paid by places like Big Pharma and Monsanto's, and a lot of websites that you will find on Google are very fear mongering. An example, I had a lady come to me about a year or so ago. She was taking St. John's wort for years. And St. John's wort is a herb that you do have to be careful with because it does conflict with many medications, but she was not on any medications. She took St. John's wort and took it for years and had no problem with St. John's wort. And then one day she decided to Google St. John's wort, and she said she didn't have any issues with St. John's wort whatsoever. But she Googled it, and Google scared her so bad with the information that she chose. Um, to stop taking St. John's wort, which he probably needed a break anyways, but I would hate for people to Google a herb and then be like, oh my gosh, Google scared me and I won't take it anymore. And so I think there's a lot of unnecessary fear mongering on there. You do have to be careful with herbs, but not as careful as Google will tell you to be. So just keep that in mind when it comes to Googling. Like stay off of WebMD and those type of websites. All right, let's talk about books. Books that I love for beginners. I'll do another podcast episode someday where maybe we talk about all things books and I'll talk more about advanced books. But if you're a brand new herbalist, and I'll link this in the show notes, but one book that I recommend to so many people is a book called The Modern Herbal Dispensatory by Thomas Easley and Stephen Horn. This book, one of the things I love about books is I love books that go into great detail, but sometimes it's nice to have an herbal book that is very short and sweet. Not it's the book itself is not short and sweet, but the herbs. So it will talk about like let's say lemon balm. So you look at lemon balm and it's very short and sweet. Like it gives you great information about like lemon balm or burdock root, but it's not really detailed. And sometimes I need that, especially if I'm doing like a TikTok live or whatever. It's just really beneficial to be able to just have that short and be like, oh, this is the main things that these herbs do. And I just absolutely love that. And so, and the Modern Herbal Dispensatory has a lots of other information in there. It does like energetics, which not a lot of books talk about energetics. It talks about energetics. It talks about ratios on tinctures. It talks about how to make, all sorts of remedies. It's a great beginner book, so I highly recommend it to new herbalists. Now, anything by Rosemary Gladstar is going to be an amazing book for beginners. So if you're a beginner herbalist and you see Rosemary Gladstar, a book and you're like, is this a book I should get? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. Um, Now, that being said, I still recommend Rosemary Gladstar to seasoned herbalists as well. So if you're seasoned, you just can't go wrong with Rosemary Gladstar. She's for everybody. But for beginners, the one that I would start with is she has the Medicinal Herbs, the Beginner Guide. I would check that book out. It is amazing. So I would try that book. Another one that I really like, and I've had two people tell me that they don't think it's a good beginner book, so I'm going to give you that little disclaimer, but I think it is. I think it would be a fantastic beginner book. It's called Body into Balance by Maria Noel Groves. She, I think, did an amazing, beautiful job with this book. Now, most books that you get, herbs are going to be by alphabetical order. And I'm the only guess that I have of why people think that this is not a good beginner book is it's by body system. So she has like a section on the nervous system. And so she has all the herbs that are good for nervous system in the nervous system area. And then she has like a gut health section. And so she has all the herbs and it's not alphabetized. So kind of keep that in mind. And it does there's a little bit of detail to it, but I still think it would be very beneficial for beginner herbalists. And it's one of my favorite books. So that's something that you could look into. All right. So other tips for how to become an herbalist is like I said, I already mentioned this before, but I think it's super important. So I'm going to mention it again, is allow yourself to be a beginner. Most of us think that we need to be an expert overnight. And when it comes to herbalism, you can't be an expert overnight. It's going to take time. I have been studying herbalism nonstop for 8 years. And there's still so much that I don't know. There's still so much that I still have to learn. And I have this feeling that in 20 years I'll be able to say, hey, I've been studying herbalism nonstop for 28 years and there's still so much I need to learn. Herbalism is an open-ended topic. There's so much that we need, or there's just so much, and we're not going to be able to learn everything. So allow yourself to be a beginner and to learn a little bit here or there. So, yeah. If you are really wanting to get into herbalism, I would look into something called a materia medica. A materia medica is pretty much an herbal journal. So this is where you keep a journal and you learn all things herbs. So you take one herb, let's say you want to learn about burdock root. And so you get to know like the names, the Latin name, the um, a little bit about the family. You would want to know about the therapeutic properties, the medicinal uses, what it looks like in great detail. Like you want to really get to know what this plant looks like, what it smells like, what it tastes like. So this is a great way to really identify, everything about the plant. Maybe have a little journal about how it makes you feel. If you take it, like take it as a tea or a tincture, how does it, make you feel? And like I said, the medicinal uses. So this is all a materia medica is really getting to know one herb at a time and really getting to know it. And then you're like, okay, what if I want to start a materia medica? There are like thousands of herbs out there. Where do I know which herb do I start with? There's two ways that you can really pick an herb. One is, do you have an illness or condition that you are trying to heal? So let's say you have asthma. So you're like, I want an herb that's gonna help with my asthma. So maybe this is the one time that I'm saying that maybe Google will be your friend, is maybe Google herbs that can help with asthma. Don't look too much more into that though. And you're probably going to see something like mullein will pop up. And maybe you'll be like, okay, mullein is the first herb that I should really learn about in great detail. Or maybe you have anxiety and you're like, okay, um, you do a quick search and be like, what herbs can help with anxiety? And there's going to be a lot that pops up, but maybe you're like lemon balm. Let's look at lemon balm first. And so look into, herbs that will help with you and your health. Another thing that you can look into is maybe you will want to become a forager or, into wild crafting. And you're like, I want to know what herbs grow in my area. So maybe do a research about what herbs grow in your community and maybe really get to know herbs that grow in your community. Maybe it's St. John's wort or mullein or um, I'm drawing a blank now. Dandelion, plantain. So yeah, you could try to find out that and maybe research the herbs that are growing in your own backyard. So that'd be really exciting. Um, so another one, so I know that I said that allow yourself to beginner is like a number one tip, but this is another like number one tip of learning all about herbalism is experiment. Like I love researching. I love researching herbs, but the one thing that's really going to help you learn herbalism is to experiment with the herbs. So go to maybe your local health food store. Local health food stores have normally bulk herbs, and when they're in bulk, they're not very expensive. They're actually pretty inexpensive. And so maybe get a little bit of this herb, a little bit of that herb. Now make sure though, if you're on any medication, the herbs that you pick do not conflict with your medication that you are taking. And also, if you have any illness, make sure that the herb doesn't conflict with any illnesses that you have. So, but if you pick up some herbs, maybe make a tea with it. I also recommend getting to a one herb at a time, because what if you combine five herbs together and an herb makes you not feel too good? Which one of those is not making you feel so good? So I recommend maybe try you know, to take one herb and be like, okay, this is how it makes me feel. Do I like how it makes me feel, or maybe I don't like how it makes me feel? So really get to experiment the herb and um, see how it makes you feel. And do you like it in a tea? Do you like it in a tincture? Maybe you can make a syrup out of it. So yeah. All right. And then the other tip is just keep learning, keep researching, keep studying. Like I said, I've been nonstop researching for 8 years, and I still feel like there's still so much I don't know. So keep learning, keep being curious. Um, yeah, okay. And I've got to do this. I got to share some shameless plug. I have a couple of um, things in my shop that can help new herbalists. So one of the first things that I came up with was called a starter kit. And the starter kit is geared for new herbalists. So I know when people are new into herbalism, they are overwhelmed. They're like, what herbs should I get? So I created a starter kit. It has 11 herbs, and these 11 herbs, um, are for you to experiment with. And I recommend, even though I love tea blends and I think there's a time and a place for tea blends, I think it's really important to get to know one herb at a time. And then, so my starter kit is for you to really get to know each and every herb. What does it look like? What does it taste like? And most importantly, how does it make you feel? And so yeah, so you can go check out the starter kit. It has 11 herbs, and people loved the starter kit so much. Like, it was my number one seller, that I also created the second starter kit, the anxious kit, and the gut health kit. So you guys can go check that out. Like I said, these are all herbs that I recommend getting to know individually before you start combining them. Another thing that I have with my business that is geared for new, or I even have a couple seasoned herbalists, is a membership. I have a membership called Herb of the Month. And what this entails is every month we learn about one herb in great detail. And as I say this, we are almost in our 23rd month. Actually, by the time I post this episode, we will be in our 23rd month. And so we are learning all about January. We are learning all about cayenne. But we have learned about so many herbs. I'm not going to list them all, but we have learned about yarrow, mullein, St. John's wort. We've learned about rosemary, thyme, so many herbs we have learned about. In the almost 2 years of this membership, every herb that we've learned about in the past is still in the membership, and members can access them at any time. Each herb comes with two PDF files. One PDF file is packed full of information all about the herb. They're normally around 13 to 15 pages of information all about the herb. We talk about names, Latin names, a little bit about family. We talk about plant identification, what it looks like, what it smells like, what it tastes like, um, how to garden it. Oh, taste is super important when it comes to herbalism. I want to do a podcast episode all about taste, so that should be coming up someday soon. So, taste. We talk about how to garden it, where it's native to, where it likes to grow. We talk about active constituents, which is the chemistry of the plant. Therapeutic properties. Therapeutic properties is it an anti-inflammatory? Is it antibacterial? A diuretic, diaphoretic, all of that. We talk about energetics because I don't feel like enough herbalists talk about energetics. Medicinal uses and folklore. We talk a little bit about folklore. And then the other PDF file is like, okay, we learned all about the herb, but what are we supposed to do with the herb now once we learned all about it? So I have a PDF file with recipes. We also, there's lots and lots of videos for my visual learners. I'm very visual, so there's so many videos in the membership. We're primarily a knowledge-based membership, but every 3 months that you are a member, I send you 3 herbs. My members get 15% off of anything in my shop. We have a private Facebook group. And the best part is it's only $13 a month. You should go check out all the perks. Oh, and if you're totally not sold yet, if you go to my website and if you go to the Herb of the Month section, I do have a free Yarrow PDF file that you can um, download and see if this is a PDF file that maybe will make you want to join the membership. So, but yeah, so those are my tips on how to become an herbalist. A lot of it is what type of herbalist do you want to be? Do you want to be self-taught? Do you want to go to school? Read books, look at YouTube videos, listen to podcasts, look at social media, be really careful. Maybe start a Materia Medica, maybe join our membership, maybe try a starter kit. So yeah, that is what I have all about this topic. Let me know if you have any questions. Please don't, hesitate to reach out. And I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you have a fantastic day. All right, guys, bye. I hope you loved this episode. If you did, please make sure to follow Wild Yarrow Apothecaries podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave me a review. Do you want to hear more about this episode? Join our Herb of the Month membership where I add a bonus part of this episode. In this membership, we also have a lot of PDF files, a lot of videos, and every 3 months that you are a member, I send you 3 herbs, and there's so many more benefits. Come check it out. Come nerd out with us. And thank you for listening to the Wild Yarrow Apothecaries podcast, and have a great day.